The twin suns of Ardentis Valley hung low, bleeding orange light across the canyon as the wind stirred spirals of dust. The frontier planet was harsh, beautiful, and merciless, much like the lives of those who tried to survive on it. Humans had settled here barely a century ago, but they were not alone. The Dragankin had called these deserts home for millennia. Towering, horned, scaled, yet intelligent and proud, they were once warriors feared across the sector. But war and famine had broken their clans, scattering them into struggling pockets across the frontier. It was this broken world that the lone human cowboy, Jace Roel, rode across on his solar-bred stallion. His coat was tattered, his hat wide-brimmed against the glare, and his eyes tired but sharp as ever. He wasn't a hero, he told himself that often. Just a wanderer, a rancher without a ranch, a man with a past he hadn't outrun but no longer cared to escape. Life had taught him one thing: you help when you can. You walk away when you can't. He didn't know which one today would be the encounter. He saw them near sundown, two figures, one large, one small, slumped beside a stone outcropping. Dragankin, their scales were dulled, their clothing torn, and their breaths shallow. Hunger clung to them like a shadow. Jace slowed his horse. The larger one, a female, barely lifted her head. Her crimson scales had dulled to rust, and a cracked set of silver horns glinted weakly in the fading daylight. She wrapped a wing protectively around a younger dragoner boy, maybe 8 or 9 in human years, too weak to even raise his head. Jace swung off his horse. "Ma'am," he said softly, "you injured?" The dragon widow's eyes fluttered. When she spoke, her voice was faint, threaded with pride and desperation. "We haven't eaten in 6 days." The words hung in the air like a verdict. The boy whimpered. His stomach growled so loudly even Jace heard it. Jace didn't hesitate. He dug into his saddlebag and pulled out a loaf of sun-baked bread. It wasn't much, he'd been saving it for himself, but he knelt and offered it to them. The woman stared at it, then at him, as if unable to believe. "You'll take it," he said simply. "Ain't starving under my watch." Her claws trembled as she broke the loaf and offered the first piece to the boy. Tears, hot, crystalline, rolled down her scaled cheeks as he devoured it. He hadn't seen a Dragankin cry before. It carved something deep into him when she finally ate her share. She looked back at Jace and asked in a quiet, raw voice, "Why would a human help us?" He shrugged lightly. "Because you needed it." The widow's story as the boy slept, full and exhausted. The widow finally spoke. "My name is Serin Valkyra, widow of the Firewalker clan." Jace tipped his hat. "Jace Roel, cowboy, no clan." She managed a weak smile. "A strange clan to have. What happened to yours?" He asked gently. Her tail curled tightly. "Bandits," she whispered. "Human bandits." Jace's brows lowered. "They raided our convoy, stole our stores, killed my mate, and left us with nothing. We walked for days trying to find refuge, but the desert is not kind." Jace looked at the boy. "He's your son." "Yes, little Kale." Jace exhaled slowly. A widow, an orphaned boy, starved, alone, attacked by his own kind. He had seen enough in life to know. Suffering didn't care what species wore what skin. The officerin watched him carefully, fear flickering behind her exhaustion. "You may continue your journey, cowboy," she said quietly. "You've already given more than most." Jace rubbed the back of his neck. "Yeah, well, see, that's the problem. He looked round the barren wasteland. I can't leave you two out here. You'll be dry bones by morning. She tensed. What do you intend to do? Take you with me, he said plainly. There's a settlement 2 days north. Good folks, water, food, safety. She blinked in disbelief. You trust us? Trust ain't the issue, he said with a small grin. You need help. I got hands. Seren's voice cracked. You don't even know us. You're alive, Jace replied. That's enough for me. Her throat tightened. You would risk your life for a widow and her child. He met her gaze without flinching. Ma'am, anyone can give bread, but helping someone stand again, that's what matters. The journey north, the trip, was brutal. Cale was weak, forcing Jace to lift him onto the horse. Seren walked, despite her exhaustion, refusing to leave her son's side. Jace rode beside them, offering water, support, and the strength she no longer had. Seren stumbled many times, but each time Jace caught her, steadying her with a gentle hand. Easy now, he'd say. Just breathe. She watched him with growing confusion. Humans were supposed to be enemies. Humans had destroyed her convoy. Humans had taken her world apart, piece by piece. Yet this one seemed to rebuild small pieces of it with every step. Nightfall conversations on the second night. They camped under stone arches carved by wind and time. Cale slept beside the fire, finally warm and safe. Seren sat across from Jace. You confuse me, cowboy, she said at last. How so? Your people ruined mine. Many times, and yet you treat us with more kindness than even some Dragankin. Jace poked the fire with a stick. Bad folks come in all shapes, he said. So do good ones. Seren wrapped her wings around herself. In my culture, when someone saves a life, they become part of that life. Part of the clan. Their name is added to our hearthstone. Jace looked up. I ain't got much of a name worth remembering, ma'am. She shook her head softly. That is for the saved to decide, not the savior. The arrival when they reached the northern settlement, the townsfolk stared. Dragonkin were rare, and 2 starved ones guarded by a lone cowboy made for a strange sight. But Jace vouched for them. And in the frontier, Jace Rowell's word carried weight. The healer took Cale. The innkeeper offered food. The ranch hands brought blankets. The blacksmith bowed to Seren in respect. The widow watched. It all with trembling disbelief. You did this? She whispered to Jace. Nah. Folks just need a nudge. Sometimes the bread and the name that evening. After Cale had eaten 3 bowls of stew and fallen asleep content, Seren approached Jace. She held something wrapped in cloth. This, she said, opening it carefully, is a hearthstone fragment. I saved it from the bandits' attack. The polished stone glowed faintly. Carved with ancient symbols, Seren placed it in Jace's hands. In Dragonkin tradition, she said, voice low but strong, when you saved us, you earned the right to give your name to our hearthstone. Jace froze. What are you saying? I am saying, she whispered, that today you became family. She met his eyes, and for the first time there was no fear, only gratitude and something deeper. What is your full name, cowboy? Jace swallowed, suddenly unable to speak. He hadn't given anyone his full name in years, but he gave it now. Jace Elijah Rowell. She repeated it with reverence, then carved it gently into the stone. And now, she said softly, your name is bound to ours. You are Jace, Elijah, Roa Love, Clan Valkyra. Jace stared at her, stunned. You don't owe me a thing, he whispered. We owe you everything, Seren replied. Bread saved our bodies, but your name saved our lives. She stepped closer. And if you will allow it, we would be honored if you stayed. Jace looked at Kale, sleeping soundly for the first time in days. He looked at Seren, her crimson scales glowing warmly in the firelight. He smiled, soft and genuine. Ma'am, he said, I reckon I'd like that.